Hey, what's going on YouTube? Greetings, my DPS daddies. Today, I'm going to fulfill a long-standing request amongst the YouTube audience I got here, and I'm going to detail for you guys how I made my initial currency at the onset of a new league. This is something you guys have been asking for a long time. I unfortunately was not able to play the first 24 hours of launch, and so I had a small disadvantage off the jump. In spite of this, however, over the course of Friday and Saturday, I was able to make over 10 divines while simply leveling, using the bulk of that currency to purchase multiple T0 uniques for my forthcoming and semi-YOLO experimental Mjolnir build, as well as make several investments into things that I believe will produce a strong ROI and or provide enough value in their use case to merit stockpiling now while their supply is at an all-time high. And their demand is also consequentially at an all-time low. This will create a dynamic whereby outpacing generalized inflation is all but assured. And just to show you that I actually have these things, here you can see I've got 126 fracturing orbs, a couple of these new essences here, and with respect to what I was mentioning with that experimental Mjolnir build, you can see we've got the new Heat Shiver, 2 Mjolnirs, the Soul Eater chest, Call of the Brotherhood, Pole Circle, I'm not even going to try saying that name, the P-Ring, this shield, which is super cheap, but I think is definitely a lot stronger people are giving it credit for. And then Acuity, although I will probably switch this with the new gloves that have the pen stuff on them. Either way, though, some of the holdings there, and obviously there's a multitude of other things as well, but just to qualify myself in the video title there. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed this video or content focused in this sphere, if you could please consider leaving a like above, a comment below, or subscribing to the channel if you're new. I know there's been a lot of negativity brewing amongst the content sphere of the game since launch, and while I don't believe it's all without merit, I'm going to consciously try and go in the other direction and provide as much value to you guys as I can in order to get you over any humps you might be experiencing. With the goal being that we can all melt some face and get back to playing the game so many of us love. So let's get into it, boys. Now, in no specific order, I'll be going through this, but here are some of the methods I use to generate wealth, liquidity, and or to multiply any lucky drops I had while running through the axe, just doing some leveling over the weekend. I know many of you have lots to do, as do I. So I'll try to keep this overview pretty brief, at least within the context of my videos. And if I gloss over something as a result, or if it needs any further explanation, you can leave a comment below, and I'll be happy to elaborate further. Also, as usual, I do actually stream all of my gameplay. In particular, I've streamed every Leaguestart for probably 25 or 30 leagues straight. But you guys can see here, we've got, how long did we do this for? Geez, 6, 25, 35... 38 hours over the weekend, so we certainly did not slouch with respect to the hours in there. But naturally, that's probably that's about almost as much as a full-time job in a work week. So it's not like I didn't do nothing. Obviously, I was AFK for some of that time too, but do take that with a grain of salt as well. All right. So with that being said, though, here are some of the things that I did, and in most cases, what I was doing was, anytime I would get a small amount of liquidity, let's say I found a unique item I could sell for a couple exalts, maybe found a couple exalts or two in the in the course of leveling or killing a boss or something. Anytime I had some sort of downtime, let's say I was eating or got a coffee, or I was just talking to chat, something where I couldn't really actively engage in the game, I would just look for multiple ways to kind of look for arbitrage opportunities or inefficiencies in the market to compound that wealth in a very sort of the trading element of it might be very kind of engaging, but in a way that doesn't take too much thought and where there's very little guesswork. And so the bulk of this is going to be focused in that sphere. So the first thing I did was get whetstones. So if you are to go to the salvage bench here, and you take a item that has quality on it. So if it's a martial weapon, you'll get whetstones. If it is a armor piece, you'll get armor scraps. And if it is a staff or a wand or a scepter, you'll get these Arcanist etchers. As well, if it is a flask, you will get glassblower baubles. Now, the amount that you get typically correlates to the amount of quality on it. If it's 20 quality, you'll get 4 of each one. And it will also give you, sorry, I forgot to mention this too, if it has any sockets, so rune sockets, you'll also get, pardon me, artificer shards from those as well. One per socket. So if you can get a 20 quality item with 2 sockets and you just salvage it, in the best case scenario, being that they're the most expensive, or they were at the time at least, blacksmith whetstones, which were going for 2 to 1 exalt, so you could sell 2 and get 1 exalt back. If you get a 20 quality weapon that had 2 rune sockets in it, just by salvaging that, you've got 2 exalts worth of whetstones, and then the artificers at the time were 1 to 1, so 2 shards being 1/5 of that. That would mean that if you spent 5 exalts, if you were to buy that 20 quality weapon with 2 rune sockets for, let's say, an exalt each, I was getting them significantly cheaper, often for a regal, sometimes even for transmutes or augments, which was pretty great. With regals, we're about 5 to 1 at the time. I would get 2 exalts back from the each time from the whetstones, and so that would mean that 5 times over we would get 10 divs from that, and then we would get one div sorry, we would get 5 exalts from that, and we would get 1 exalt from the artificers. So that's 6 exalts, 11 exalts after having spent 5 in that scenario, and that would be the highest that we did, right? And while that 6 exalt gain might not seem like much, you're talking about something that would take, probably in its totality 4 or 5 minutes. And early on, obviously, before generalized inflation really hits the market too heavily, I started buying divines at 24 exalts a piece. And so, you do that 4 or 5 times. It's like you spent 20 minutes, you got a divine. Now, naturally, not many people want to take 20 minutes away to go like flip currency or do arbitrage stuff. But as I said, this was just generally in times when I was going off on some long ranting tangent to my chat unrelated to the game. Or if I was waiting for a friend to come online, because at a certain point, since I anticipated playing this Mjolnir build, I attempted to actually go with an attribute stacker off the jump, just because it was so fast for me leveling last league. If I'm being honest, I didn't really thoroughly read through the patch notes initially. I did after this, of course. I didn't see how badly it would have been nerfed. So there were times where I just got buddies to come help me kill act bosses and stuff like that. But occasionally I had to just wait for them because I was just getting frustrated. And, since I had targeted my tree and all that stuff towards eventually co-opting this Mjolnir build at level 66, in between Act 3 and 4 kind of, and then up until the finish of Act 6, that was definitely a little bit of a struggle. So there were definitely some down periods for me, and that's typically when I would do this. That being said, though, it's still, unless you're doing high level maps, that still is going to outpace that in any effect. So yeah, I was doing that with the whetstones, the scraps. Again, looking up items that have 20 quality and that had 2 rune sockets. Pretty simple to do so. You're just going to go and take PoE 2 trade here. And then you would just go here, item quality 20, rune sockets 2, any weapon, and any non-unique typically. Oh, that's the wrong thing. Dawn of the Hunt, and there we go. You can see right now 1 alchemy each, 2 alks on these guys. That's less than an exalt a piece. I'm not sure what the rate is right now, but we'll do one just for shits and giggles. This might seem like I'm spending a lot of time on this, but I literally probably made 2 divines doing this in 30 minutes. The only reason I stopped doing it was because I was streaming to about 150 people at the time, and I actually could actively see viewers, their names, their account names, and their Twitch names were the same. Not only emulating what I was doing, which is somewhat to be expected, but actively undercutting me while I was doing it, to the point that since by and large those people weren't considering the math, they were just carbon copying what I was doing, I suppose. They were actually doing it to a point that it became inefficient financially to do so. So I stopped doing that, and that just comes with the territory, I suppose. But yeah, very simple thing to do, and this actually is going to be worth even more. I didn't even take this in at first, but this actually has 3 sockets, so we're going to get 3 artificers on this. We spent 1 alk, and as you can see there, we get 4 whetstones and 3 artificer shards. And oh, look at this. Blacksmith whetstones are going for 1 to 3. So that's 1.3 exalts right there. And that's about a third. So that's 1.6 exalts. Now, with alchemies being... Let's see. Approximately 1.8. Let's call them 2 to 1. right? That's about 3 alchemies. So you're basically tripling your money in that situation I just had there. Now, I know that doesn't seem like a lot, and obviously the individual act itself might seem a little gratuitous. But again, when divines are, 24 exalts and you're making like an X or two from a single trade like that, 5, 6 trades, like if you just line them up and, you go direct whisper, right? And then you get a chain of people that send you invites, so you accept one, go to the next one, go to the next one. And you can kind of like basically slot them in after one or another so that you just got like a perpetual thing of invites. And as long as your load times aren't too bad, it really is not too big of a struggle whatsoever. A lot of what I'm going to say subsequent to this is going to apply to that same thing. I know I'm spending a lot of time talking about the whetstones here, but a lot of what I was doing is really just up this vein as well. So the next thing was armor scraps, exact same thing and reasoning for that. Arcanist quality things and baubles. Baubles is one of the things that people overlook quite often. They're quite useful. They're definitely not as liquid as the other ones since they're a little bit more understated in their benefits. It just gives flask duration stuff, but so it's not as obvious as like seeing your ES go up or your Fizz DPS go up, but they still have great margins on them often. And the next one I was doing too, similar but different, is chance shards. Chance orbs are typically, they're quite rare relative to the other ones, but they're generally sought after for these high-end uniques. They can be very, 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 very strong if you compare them with something like Thief's Torment, Death's Rush. I haven't looked at the things specifically, but stuff like Sapphire rings and Emerald rings and whatnot. You can see here I've kept an entire tab basically of different kind of chance bases. A Stellar Amulet can go into Astra Mentis. As I said, Emerald rings, Thief's Torment, and Death's Rush. Sapphire rings can go into that Mana ring, Dream Fragments, and Porcelain or whatever it's called. There's quite a few of them here that have some value. I'm not going to go through the totality of that. But Chance Orbs, it's safe to say, well, like 2 to 1 is probably the lowest you'll ever see them. But you'll see them go north of 3, 4, 5, 6 to 1. And really, the cheaper they go, the more it just justifies actually using them. There was a point yesterday where I saw Emerald rings going for like an alch each, and Chance Orbs for like 2x. And at that point, had the price of Divines not been so low, I would have just jumped into it, because that's actually what I did at the start of last league. A lot of that was on the basis of Fubgun saying that Thief's Torment was best in slot, though, because overnight the price of what do you call them? Precursors went from, or not precursors, Thief's Torment went from like 15 exalts to like 5 divs or something. But like it's still like a T3 unique, so it's like a 1 in 15 to chance it. I think I made like 75 divs in like 2 hours doing that before too many people from stream started doing it as well. Then I couldn't get any ring bases anymore. But yeah, Chance Orbs, they're great. They definitely go up in price, and the fundamental use case for them is solid anyways, as a hedge against that in case the market fluctuates in a way that you didn't anticipate. And that's something you should always consider too, is that if you if you're trying to outpace generalized inflation by like reallocating your kind of gold standard currencies, be that divines, exalts, I suppose to some extent chaos, but really more just divines and exalts, into a secondary currency or one that you think might just do better against the market at large. It's always best, because nobody's right 100% of the time, even if you have very solid underlying reasons for it. It's always good to kind of hedge that bet by having that be in a currency that you can use if you're wrong about the speculative value about it in the short term. Because again, if people are if you have a solid reasoning for thinking it's going forward, it's typically going to be fundamental basis, like value investing perspective. And if the market at large isn't seeing that, it probably means that they don't really understand the value. And speaking of that, this probably merits a separate video, but as you can see, I have very heavily gone into fracturing orbs. I think that these are grossly underpriced right now, like grossly underpriced. And these are by far the strongest thing that they've added for crafting. And they solve so many of the issues that I've detailed at length from the first launch of the early access. But If you guys are interested in me going into that further, I can certainly make a separate video on it. But I bought these for about four exalts each, sometimes 5. I saw today that there's a couple floating around 3, 4. That doesn't bother me at all. And in fact, if they even went down in price, no worries. I'll keep buying them because I know 200 ways that I can turn these into hundreds of divs a day. And frankly, if I wasn't so excited about my Mjolnir build, I'd probably jump right into it because the conditions around crafting right now are far better than they were last league. Far more options. And last league, I finished the axe and then crafted like 11 mirror items before I killed a mob again. I remember at one point I spent 75,000 divines in totality, and I had 33,000 kills on my character. So had a good laugh about that, and then made my new gem stacker, but that was like 2 months into the league. So this time, I'm going to focus on the gameplay stuff. But either way, I'll still try to keep you guys up to date with my financial analyses, as it were, or just some insights that might provide a different perspective to the game for you. So chance orbs, really good thing to get. Now again, that was another tangent that I didn't have written down here. However, how we were getting these chance orbs, obviously you can get them from just disenchanting any unique item that you get. However, one thing that people maybe do not know is that if you disenchant an item that has 6 modifiers on it, you actually get double the amount of shards. That's the same thing with regals too. And that was certainly something I paid an eye of attention to when I was going through like a vendor crawl. Another thing too to mention, every time that I would get to town, I wouldn't go, because those servers were pretty laggy, I didn't go like swap between towns every time I leveled. Every time you level, the vendors that are in town, their inventory will reset. But I would just go in and I would type quality like this, and then quality, and then socket, and then I would just look through them. Oh, like there, right? So you can see here, this one's got 7 quality, and this one has 2 sockets. So this one, because it's rare, you'd have the option, I'm not going to buy it because it's too much gold, but you'd have the option on this one, you could disenchant that for a regal shard, or you could salvage it for 2 artificer's shards. This one though, well, fuck it, I'll buy it just for the demonstrative sake. It's got quality, right? Boom, armor, scrap, easy peasy. Now, if we were to go the disenchanting route, let's see if I have any uniques here that have 6 mods on them. 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, this one. I don't actually have to do it here, but disenchant item. Now you can see when I hover over how it says 2 chance shards. That's because this has 6 individual modifiers on it. Now that actually is a dramatic difference, because that means that you can buy, if you can get 5 unique items that have those mods on them, and there's no consideration for the strength of that item, and so people just don't price this in whatsoever. Again, it's not very glamorous, but there were points yesterday where I was selling chance orbs, especially if you get several of them, because naturally when people are buying chance orbs, it's not something that people are going to need at one time. Like when somebody's buying a divine, it's usually just as a store of value for bartering thereafter. When people are buying things like a regal, typically somebody's just buying a regal because they need to regal something or vol something. Later in the league, obviously people do these en masse, but you're not going to see people doing it really in bulk. Chance orbs kind of the opposite. It's like if somebody's chancing something, the best odds on them are going to be like 10 or 20 to 1, right? I think most people kind of know that. So it's very rarely is somebody just going to go be like, ooh, I found a white item. I need to go out, spend the time to go make an individual trade to get 1 chance orb. And so that's one of the items that you can kind of take some liberty with when you have bulk supply of them. But I digress though. There were 4 exalts each, right? Which meant if I can get 5 separate trades to total out to 4 exalts, that just means that as long as my break even there cost-wise is 0.8x, right? So if I can get one of those unique items I just mentioned for less than 0.8x, that's obviously pretty solid. So I just come here, go unique item, buyout price, and I would actually check this first. Orb of augmentation. Look at this. Oh, and look at this, the first one. This was actually the one, this was my fallback. Wylun's Stake. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That is 1 augment. That is like 1/15th of an exalt, right? Buy that. Now you've got, and when you might be saying in your head, oh, there's no way anyone would make a trade for 1 augment. They do, and they did. Obviously, the response rate is lower, and I don't typically sit here wait for 1 trade. Like I'll message somebody like that, Then I would go down. Oh, here's another one for one div, or sorry, one thing, 8 augments, right? And then, you know, message the people where they have them cheap enough. Then I would go to transmutes. Okay, oh, 10 to 1. Frankly, when they're this cheap, it doesn't really, you know, you're kind of splitting hairs, getting 1 or 2. Obviously, 2 is better, but you know, these are significantly cheaper than a single exalt, so really not too much to balk at there. Who is this guy here? Sada Namaste, 10 transmutes. All right. And yeah, as I said, sorry, I really don't need to demonstrate these things to you live. It just kind of, I know some of these things sound sort of abstract or sort of pointless, but as you can see here, I messaged like 5 people, instantly get 2 invites. Normally, if I was doing this, like, I had a goal in mind, so I was trying to get to a divine. Let's say I had 10 exalts. I'm trying to get to 25 or 26 to get that next divine for purchasing a Mjolnir or whatever. So I know I need to get like 16x back. It's like I'll set up, like, it'll be like, okay, I'm going to get 6x from this, 5x from this, 6x from this, and so that way you don't, you know, over rely on one sort of material market or whatever. And lot, what's this guy want? It's 10 transmutes. Oh, okay, here we go. The perfect example. This is a 6 modded one. The staff here. For these future ones, because this video is already 20 minutes long, I'll try and keep it. I'll just keep it to a verbal explanation, and I'll try to be a little bit more concise. I didn't realize we're already 20 minutes. Sorry about that, guys. I really am bad at being brief. But yeah, it was not uncommon for me. Kalpura, 8 augments. Look at that. So we sent out 5 messages, and we're gonna get back half a chance, right? So we just probably spent, I don't know, a third of an exalt, maybe, probably a little bit less, to be honest. 1/5 of an exalt, and we're gonna get half a chance orb. Now again, chance orbs right now are only like 2 to 1, so this is not particularly great at this exact moment. But I don't think you're gonna have a hard time. Actually, they might be 3 to 1. You do also want to check out the difference between the trade site and the currency exchange. In particular, if the item that you're buying or selling has a very high gold cost associated with it. Chance orbs are 1,000 gold per chance orb when you buy them, so they're very often more expensive, or sorry, like there's often a rather large discrepancy, especially early on leveling like this, because people don't have large stocks of gold, right? And so you know, people can justify it. So yeah, if here's actually a perfect example of what I'm saying though. So you can see this one only has 5 mods, right? So 1 chance shard, but both of these have 6 mods. So there we go, right? So half a chance right there. And as you see, I only messaged what, 5 people, 3 replied. Again, it's not very glamorous, but you know, if I message 20 or 30, it's like I might end up with 3 chance orbs, and that might not sound like a lot, but that 3 chance orbs, you know, in that scenario right there, we would have spent about an exalt, and we would get back 11 or 12 kind of thing. I would often undercut the market, so like if I had a specific goal, so like I was trying to get a divine, and let's say they're selling for 3 to 1, if I had like 7 of them, I might do 7 for 20x. Just that way I ensure that the person who's buying it I don't have to do 7 individual trades, and also there's an incentive on their end, since it's like a 1 exalt below the market value or whatever. It really depends on what I'm feeling, or you know, if I want to take a break, or if I'm just talking shit with chat or whatever. But yeah, that's what I was doing with chance orbs anyways, and that probably amounted to a divine in itself. Artificer shards, similar thing. We kind of went over that. What else do I have written down here? Arbitrage between the trade site and the currency exchange. This is a pretty obvious one, or it should be a pretty obvious one. These are not intrinsically linked up, right? So chance orbs, for example, I just pointed out as something to look at, right? So if you want to buy a chance orb, all right, for exalts, you can see 1 chance orb is going to cost you 1,000 gold, right? And you can see that they're 2.5x each on the currency exchange. So the trade site, like the bulk buyer, is not connected to that in any way. And you can see here that they are, yeah, there's a couple listed at 2. If there's only like 1 or 2 of those, good luck getting that beginning of the league. just because of the way traffic is siphoned. But you can see that they're 3. That's a small difference, but I mean that is a 20% margin more, right? Like that going from 2.5 to 3 is 20% more expensive. And so the reason why that's the case is because people tend to account for the gold cost. Sometimes it's just inexplicable, but they're often, especially when you're getting to like the more liquid a currency is, so or a material is, so the more often, the higher the volume of trades are between it, the more established the market price is going to be for it, right? So there's going to be far less variability there. But when you get to something like distilled, for example, the things that anoint amulets, these are not super liquid, especially early. And like there's not a huge supply of them. And so I actually made about 2 divs. I kid you not. I'm sure it's probably still there. All right, let's take a look at this. All right, delirium, divine. Sorry, they got distilled disgust. Yep, they're there. All right, 1 exalt. 1 exalt for a distilled disgust. All right, I'm not gonna like stalk these guys down or anything. It's also possible those are fake listings, but either way, look at this. 5 exalts. Right, 2x, 2x, 3x, 4x, right? And it's like also you can 3 to 1 distilled. You can 3 to 1 these, right? So you could take 3 of the one level below it, and then take it to the I forget the name of the little thing, but you can 3 to 1 them, smash them together, and they'll go to the next tier up. And so there's opportunities with that as well. But specifically the distilled disgust, I think I bought like 8 or 9 of those, and I think I made like 3x or so on each one. So that by itself, another divine profit there. That would have taken like less than 2 minutes. And when you can put things onto Alva, obviously it's a little less stressful because you go have a smoke or go eat a meal, come back and it's sold, and no problem there. And now some more sort of generalized tips. Those were sort of like the arbitrage kind of currency flip things I was doing. Another thing that's really important, in my opinion, is to just list everything, right? Now, obviously, this is a little bit first world problems thing. I do have 160 tabs, and so I'd maybe take it for granted that, if you've only got like 4 tabs or whatever, you might not have this possibility. But, sorry, that's not my fault. No subliminals there, but I'm going to assume that most of you at least can manage within reason for the first couple of days at least, listing maybe not every item you find, but something that has any inclination. Like, I'm going to assume the average person has spent a little bit of money on tabs, right? And I'm sure there's somebody typing a comment now. Not all of us can afford blah blah blah. I get it, but still, just letting you know what has proven to be successful for me. A lot of the times, especially it's league starts, people need to get like resistances filled out, or they're playing some wonky little build, or you don't know what's on the market or what uniques they need or what gaps are in their gear. There's really very little downside to just throwing everything basically into a 1 exalt or 2 exalt, 3 exalt tab and just leaving it. It's like even if you only sell like, if I fill out a quad tab like this of just random crap like what's in here now, if 5% of that sells, right, it's like that might give me an extra divine over the course of a day. And it's really low effort. If there's ever a situation where I need to get like a regal or some gold, I can just take it out of there, vendor it, and or disenchant it or whatever. But I can't stress enough though, like I would say surprise currency, I probably get at least a div or 2 a day from just random crap that I would never assign any value to, that and especially early, right, because people are far more liberal with like their gearing choices. Eventually most people kind of tend to siphon towards whatever is recommended to them by who's ever build guide they're following. But early on, it's really just you take what you can get quite frequently. That goes for other things too, by the way. Essences are up there. You'd be surprised, but the amount of uncut gems I sell for an exalt or 2 each. People will buy runes. Really, just again, generalized tip here, but just list everything if you're able to. Put in tab wide bio. It's very low effort. Upside's pretty reasonable. If you don't want to like, if you end up getting to maps, you can raise the threshold for it so you don't get like bombarded by 1x trades or whatever. But again, really no downside there. Another thing too, probably full disclosure here, because it would go without saying, it wouldn't be fair for me to not mention this, but as much as I kind of shit on MF, it turns out your boy's actually a pretty fly magic finder, because while I was leveling, Divine number 1 dropped on the floor. Didn't have a loot filter on. Didn't actually use a loot filter the entirety of the first patch. Loot filter? Wow. It's not a hideout, it's a boardroom. All right, but not wanting to make that mistake again, I went and downloaded NeverSync's filter blade, and we were rewarded with a second divine drop. Now, I know the game's just trying to jabait me into a bait and switch where it tries to get me to actually map for currency, and I say no, no siree. We will act like shut in, agoraphobic robber barons, and we will leave the farming to the manual labors of the world. Joking aside, though, I think I might actually get into some mapping and some build stuff this league. We'll see. We'll see. It's a new day. It's a new day. We'll have some fun. But yeah, I did have 2 raw divines drop. Keep your eyes peeled from vendors for world or map drops. That's another thing, too. Anytime you're just out and about killing shit, going through the axe or in a map, if you ever see the word superior on an item, it'll only show up when it's on the ground, like when it actually drops. Superior means it has quality. If you've got the inventory space, pick that up because you can salvage it. Similarly, watch out for socketed items for the same reason. I bought my first divine at 24 exalts. The most I paid at any point was 44. I've invested into hundreds of fracturing orbs. I purchased the major necessary uniques, as I mentioned, or started off with for the build here. Some of these I actually got at suboptimal prices. Mjolnir in particular, when I got it, it was multiple divs. But there were only 3 of them on the trade site at the time, and I thought from a, like, because I singularly wanted to play the build, it was like, the downside for me, like, if this ends up being something that's super rare and there's, it ends up going, like, the potential ceiling, it's like a short squeeze almost, right? Like, it can go up in price basically infinitely, but it's like you play a couple divs extra, it's like at most you're going to lose a couple divs. Obviously early on that can kind of suck, but at the same time too, it was like, you know what, this is absolutely required for the build I want to play, so bit the bullet there, and perhaps the market will see a turnaround later. We're going to be wearing it anyways, so no harm, no foul, I suppose. Yeah, so in a pinch, here's another thing I wrote down. In a pinch, it would take about 15 minutes to go, if I had around 1 to 3 exalts of just like total currency, right? And when I say total currency, I mean like mishmashed random, like this, right? Like basically what's in here right now, right? Like this looks like nothing, but it's like I could probably get an exalt or 2 for that. I could probably get an exalt for that, so let's call it 4x. I could maybe get 5x here, 6x, 7x. Let's say there's about 7 exalts worth of currency right there, right? It's like, let's say I funnel those all into exalts, and then I might go and buy like the 20 quality 2 socket items, whatever, like the stuff I pointed out earlier on, and just buy like 7 of those at once, right? Now that's 7 exalts, let's say you double it, that goes to 14, right? Then you get the 14, double it again, that goes to 28, boom, now I've got another div, right? And so it would usually take me about 15 minutes to do that, and because the barrier to entry is quite low with the price of divines, now it is, I think, hovering around 40 exalts now, and I would anticipate for that to continue going up. I do think there are other things that will outpace that, but that is maybe a topic for another video, and again, let me know below if you do want me to cover that. But it was not something super time consuming, and as I pointed out to you guys with my VODs, I did play for like 30 plus hours over the weekend, so there were certainly periods of time there where I was just going on some tangent, shooting the shit with chat or whatever, or eating or something like that. So doing it during those times, no problem at all, especially with the auction house allowing you to asynchronously trade. But yeah, let's see what else here. Currency items, map items, and crafting items, etc. are in effect completely liquid at this stage of the league. So making multiple small gains per trade, but compounding them very rapidly is an incredibly powerful tool. And that bears mentioning too, right? Again, even though the margins might be pretty small, you might only be making a couple X off the jump, right? It's like, but if you can make a 30% ROI and you can do that every 5 minutes, it's like that if you've heard that classic story or not story, but that riddle, but when people are like, would you rather have $1 million cash given to you once or a penny that doubles in value every day for a month, and the penny ends up being like 12 million bucks or something like that, right? And it's just meant to highlight the nature of compounding rates of return. Naturally, math doesn't only apply to little riddles. It is very much alive and well in the game too. So don't discount small decisions if they're done vigorously and done to effect. Once you do get that initial currency, though, obviously, your input and output relationship in terms of how you spend your time. Time is the only exhaustible currency in Path of Exile. Everything should really be put to that basis. It doesn't have to be per hour all the time. I think that's a little unrealistic, even though that's the nomenclature most typically used for describing the things. All right, especially in the kind of videos I make and farmers make or whatever. But that's more of a marketing tool than anything else. But if you're playing a league lasts 4 months, putting it through a time frame, maybe how much did I make in a day, right? That's probably a little bit more relevant than how much did I make in an hour, because the idea that you're hyper efficient or playing at maximal efficiency all the time every day, it's just a lie, right? There's no one who plays like that. So take a realistic time frame on those things. But yeah, time is the only exhaustible resource in the game, and so factor that in and try to reinvest against that, right? Like early on, obviously the output that you're going to have for your input, being your financial or like gear reward for your time spent, is very low, right? Like the marginal utility of an exalt obviously diminishes rather rapidly. However, that doesn't mean that you have to fall victim to this outpacing, right? If you are to take any excess capital that you have early on, or if you are to defer your short-term gear improvement. This is one of the reasons why in PoE 1 I spend so much time in memories at the beginning of leagues, because it doesn't require you to reinvest into your gear, since memories can be run on tier 1 white maps, right? So you don't actually have to. Most people, when they're aggressively farming early on, they're trying to push T16s, they might be making more currency, but that currency has to go back into their build so they can kill the stronger mobs. But if I'm making the same amount of currency and I'm just farming T1s over and over, I don't have that same issue. And so for those couple of days where we're both doing kind of the same thing but in a different way, it's like I'm going to have dozens of divs of excess capital that I can then purchase into things like in PoE 1, like cluster jewels or voices or mirrors or vivid vultures or whatever it is that I'm planning on doing in the more midterm, because one of the things about PoE, and you'll come to find this the more you play, and I know it's not particularly helpful advice for a new player, but the game is very, very like player behavior. Markets are dynamic because they are contingent on player behavior, but preferences and patterns are very cyclical, right? Player behavior, player preferences, and player priorities are rather cyclical, I should say. And there's always changes naturally, but the consumption archetype persists in players as it does in their builds, right? Pretty distinct parallels there. And so once you make note of these patterns and you like try to quantify your decision making when and if it's probability based, and if you do your best to defer short-term rewards so that you can anticipate sort of broad stroke market actions, you'll never struggle in the game financially. The goal here for me personally, and if I could impart any sort of, not wisdom, but I take definitely a utilitarian perspective on currency in the game, right? I look at it kind of the same way that if you're a magic finder, you might look at map sustain, right? I want enough currency to be able to do what I want, to be as creative as I want, to not feel boxed into anything. It's currency is freedom, and being able to do that at a certain point too, in terms of like if you're taking the perspective of min-maxing a character, the most efficient vector in which to accomplish that goal is going to be through currency acquisition, not through actually playing. And that's simply, again, a matter of input and output, but that's a conversation for a different video perhaps. But either way, those like major 3 points there, again, take note of patterns, try to quantify your decision making when it's probability based, and do your best to defer short-term rewards so you can anticipate broad stroke market actions or sort of macroeconomic actions. You're always going to be in good shape. Anyways, guys, I know this went a little bit longer than I anticipated, but let me know if you want a full video breakdown on why I'm stockpiling fracturing orbs, why I think there's so much value in those, and what I plan to do with them on a fundamental use case side of things, as well as other currency items or other materials I think have a very high upside and a very low downside, or no downside in some cases. And if you'd like to see some of these, I wrote down semi-rapid economic breakdowns, but I'm seeing now that we're just under 40 minutes, so if that's semi-rapid, I don't know what to say to my sex life. Woo! Anyways, if you want them in the recaps, let me know in the comments below if you guys have any ideas or any videos you want to see. I'd love to make some, and I'm hoping to bring some value to you guys. I'm just about to hit 40,000 subscribers. If we could get over that that hump and get to that landmark, that'd be awesome. So if you're new to the channel, if you could consider doing that, make an old man happy. All right, guys, I'll see you next time. Have a great time playing the game. Chins up, boys. Nobody ever got where they want to be by quitting, and keep pushing. The game will get better, and you certainly won't get any better by shying away from a tough situation. So I'll do my best to walk you through that, to help you through that. And if you guys have any questions, let me know, and I'll be happy to impart any wisdom where I might have it. All right, guys. I hope you had a great opening weekend for the game, and good luck with your endeavors. And hopefully I'll see you guys soon. Cheers, lads. Bye.